are watching Kababayan Today, and we are taking your calls live here in Los Angeles. Joining us are our immigration specialist, attorney Allison Aquino Silva, attorney Richard Loew, and we have Ampy from Los Angeles that's joining us on the line with her immigration question for our attorneys. Ampy, nandyan ka ba?
Hi, yes. Thank you so much.
No problem. What is your question today?
Oh, I have two sisters who have their green card, and they have been out of the country for 20 years already. So they still renew their green card?
Okay, so they've been out of the country for 20 years. From what I understand, from a green card, you have to be in the country for a certain amount of time. They've been out for 20 years. What are their options, Attorney Richard?
Well, it's, the answer is in the name. It's legal permanent residency. So residency in the United States is required. Technically, they can present themselves to the border and at the border and say, I want to enter as a permanent resident, and then be given a hearing with a judge to determine whether or not they've abandoned their residency. But a 20-year gap is pretty much unheard of unless there was some medical reason or some other reason that prevented them from coming back to the United States. The longest I've heard actually granted was something like 8 years or 9 years, but that involved a child who couldn't have come back because of his parents. So not likely a 20-year gap are you going to be able to do anything with that green card. It's probably most likely going to be considered abandoned, and you're going to have to start the process all over again.
All right, we've got another caller on our line. Kasama natin si Reynando Reyes from Baldwin Park. Reynando, nandyan ka ba?
Nandito.
Ano po yung tanong ninyo ngayong hapon na to para sa ating mga immigration attorneys?
Okay, I have two questions. I came here as a tourist. And am I considered undocumented?
Kailan po?
The second question is, when I got here in 1980, after 7 years, I got the green card from...
Saan niyo po nakuha yung green card niyo? Hello, Reynando? Okay, unfortunately, we have lost Reynando, but it looks like they entered as a tourist visa, and that tourist visa has expired, but they have been here since the 1980s, and this isn't uncommon. I hear about this all the time. What are their options?
Well, it's a little bit of a confusing question because if he does say on one hand that he entered as a tourist, and I think he might have been asking if he's considered undocumented, and that's a generic term for anyone who is not legal here in the United States. And so with regards to the green card, then he indicates that he obtained a green card in the 1980s, and so that's the part that I'm unclear of. There was a program back in the 1980s, an amnesty program, where individuals were eligible to become lawful permanent residents of the United States if they entered the U.S. before 1982. So I don't know if that is something that he availed of. If it was not, then at this point in time, it's no longer available. But there are programs based on length of time, but typically for someone who's been here since 1980.
That's 37 years. I just did the math in my head. It's a long time to be here.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, it's not uncommon for people who've been here for 30 years that still don't have their documents in place. We're taking another call. Kasama natin si Ronald from Long Beach. Ronald, are you there?
Yes.
Hi, ano po yung tanong ninyo ngayong hapon?
Kasi meron akong interview, tapos pinetition ako ng anak ko, pero meron akong deportation dati. Ano kayang mangyayari doon?
Okay, so pinetition kayo ng anak nyo?
Oo.
But you had deportation proceedings before?
Oo.
Okay, so now I guess he's trying to figure out what the options are.
Yes.
So is this, he has an interview for an adjustment to become a permanent resident as a prior removal. Once you're in court, well, I'll just assume that he's been here the whole time. He hasn't left. Once you're in court, only the court can grant you residency. So even though he may have an approved petition and maybe he's even filed an adjustment of status application, only the court can do that, so he has to go back to court. The real problem is anytime you're doing anything with immigration now and you have a prior removal and they find out about the prior removal, you're going to be detained. So showing up to an interview with a prior deportation order is almost assured that you're going to be detained at this point. And then they would try to remove you based on the previous removal order.
Richard, that's so scary.
It is scary, and that's the process that individuals need to understand that they're going to go through. It's not a hopeless case, however, because even though that's the expectation and they need to prepare to be detained, it's a process that can still be availed of in order to do a motion to reopen, get back into court, and try to get a green card.
Okay, and that's why you need a lawyer, mga kababayan. If you are in this situation, you need the proper legal advice. I highly suggest that you get in touch with Attorney Allison Aquino Silva and Attorney Richard Loew if you have any questions. But we are going to be taking your calls when we return here on Kababayan Today. That's the number 1-800-553-5724. We'll be right back.